Hey, this is Devious Cass, America's author, and you're watching CCP Podcast.
What is happening, friends of CCP Podcasting? Welcome to Beyond the Bell. I am Chris Page. That is Todd Bar Ramsey. What is happening, sir? How are you?
Today was a very busy day, but it's gotten a lot better because I'm here tonight doing something that I love with two fantastic people that I know I'm absolutely going to enjoy. So, great day, going to be an even better night. I'm here for it.
It is glorious in every sense of the word, as I like to say. We have had an incredible journey on Beyond the Bell with this series, with our dive into independent wrestling and wrestling in general over the last 2 years. Before we get started, I do want to make a quick announcement. Toddy, we've got some pretty stoked guests coming up from Beyond the Bell in the next 4 to 6 weeks. And I do want to go ahead and take the time to let our audience know that it is confirmed. We do have Jake the Snake Roberts coming on Beyond the Bell. It's going to be a fantastic conversation. Obviously, one of the greatest psychological workers of all time, in my opinion. There's nobody better. But it gets a little bit deeper than that because you and I have started watching back Glow, the Gorgeous Ladies of Wrestling, the original series from 1986, 87, 88, 89. Hollywood is going to be joining us from the original cast of Glow. We're going to have a Beyond the Bell with Hollywood. It's going to be fantastic. And I got confirmation today that one of my personal favorites on the independent scene right now, Danny Limelight, is going to be stopping by and having a chat with us, all in the not too distant future. And it's going to be fantastic. And we couldn't do this without not only the support of our audience that continues to grow on a weekly basis, but those of the talents and the guys and girls that we connect with on this platform. It's very organic and it's very real. And it's a good segue into our guest today because, again, we start out watching a lot of stuff with no context. We find something, we just throw it on. Whatever happens, happens. When we do stuff like this, it's not uncustomary for talent to pop in our live shows and give us feedback on what's going on and give us context. And when we came across House of Champions, our original first stream, we did have a gentleman do just that. And he's our guest today. And he's also already come in and done a live show with us and done a watch along, which you can find over on our YouTube page at any point in time. This guy's listen. He's if anything, he is an influencer. Let's just say that, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Beyond the Bell. Our guest today, Mr. Wilson Dyer. How are you, man? Good to see you.
I'm doing all right. That's a great intro. I feel like that's like more grand. Like I need you to do my introduction to the ring. Like after that one. No, I'm doing great. Busy out of my mind, but wouldn't want it any other way.
Nope, I get it. I understand. Life happens. You got some things happening this weekend as we're recording this show. It's a busy situation for I think everybody attached today. Excuse me, Toddy. Say hello to our guest. That went down the right pipe, apparently.
Welcome to the show. It is so great to have you here. You have been one of the focal points that I've definitely been watching since I started watching House of Champions, and I am just over the moon to have you here with us tonight.
Well, that means a lot. I'm happy to be here. I know, obviously, I've had my extensive conversations with Chris, and I know we haven't talked, but I'm delighted to be here, and it's really awesome to be here tonight.
Well, we're gonna dive right into things, and again, we have no script. It's organic from beginning to end, but we do always kind of start off in the same direction and kick things off in the only way I know how to. The biggest icebreaker of all time. What made you fall in love with professional wrestling?
Ooh, that is a good question. So I always love to talk about this memory specifically because I think this is the biggest thing that got me into wrestling. So, as I was growing up, like I was a very difficult child. My mom will tell you, like I was bouncing off the walls. So there was not a lot of shows that you could watch with me that would keep me in my like seat. And so one day, my mom, it was WrestleMania, the year that Roman Reigns faced Triple H for the WWE Championship. She had put it on the TV, and I remember it was one of the first things that really got me to like sit down and like be interested. So, my mom is a huge reason why I got into wrestling. She put it on, and all of a sudden, it became just one of those things where we would watch Monday Night Raw together. We would watch Friday Night SmackDown, NXT, you know, and it became one of those things that me and her bonded over that, and that's where I think my love for wrestling came from, was from her.
Well, you make me feel old as shit because like some of my earliest memories are like Hogan, Andre, Horseman, Dusty. Like I, that's just if I didn't have the old card before, I certainly got it now. When you're talking about Triple H and Roman Reigns, which that was a good story. People sleep on that story, and that was not a bad one by any means at any stretch of the imagination. Uh, when you fell in love with it, at what point in time did you really start looking into finding a training facility, and how did you come across House of Champions?
So I kind of it was probably around my freshman year of high school when all of a sudden like the teachers were like, "Hey, are you like wanting to go to college? Like what colleges do you like?" When they start asking you about like, "Oh, hey, what do you want to do with your future?" And like I always was academically inclined, so like college was obviously like the pipeline, and I'd answer them, but I would always like go back to like remembering watching like Alexa Bliss's and Seth Rollins' story of like how they got into wrestling. And I remember watching those like videos and being like, well, I want to do that. Like I was like, I just kept going back to this thing of like, I don't really want to go to college. And so about 2020, COVID happened. And then in October of 2020, I moved down to Florida, and because I'm born and raised Syracuse, New York, and there's not a lot of wrestling like in Syracuse. That's probably like my biggest thing that like I wish Syracuse had more of, was like a wrestling scene, because down here in Florida it's just it's more prominent.
Sure.
Yeah, so I moved down to Florida with my family, and I just started getting a little bit more into it, where all of a sudden I was like, I don't want to go to college. I don't feel like I don't feel it's the move. And so then about a year into college, I was scrolling on Instagram, and I came across the HOC on Instagram, started following them, and then saw a post in about February, or actually no, about December of 2023, basically where they were like, "Hey, we have this virtual training program where you can learn to be a wrestler, but it's virtual classes." And I was like, "Okay, I'm going to sign up." And that was Champions Court. Did that for about 2 months, and then February of 2024, I signed up officially, went to my first class, and just started then. And that's kind of my whole like journey to like how I found the Hawk and how I started training.
Well, excuse me. It's interesting because like I like to pride myself on being an independent wrestling connoisseur, and I hadn't heard of House of Champions, and then we were chatting with Mo Malik not too long ago, and it's real interesting how I come across stuff. YouTube's algorithm is a beautiful thing. Randomly, I think we had just watched a student show somewhere else, and for whatever reason, House of Champions was in my algorithm. It was one of the latest shows. Fuck it, we'll put it on. Um, didn't realize that it was in Florida, number one, until we were watching the show, and I was like, wait. And then you popped in our chat, and I said,
Yep.
where are you at? And you tell me where you're at. You're literally, your town's next door to mine. And I was like, where's the HOC? You tell me where the HOC's at. And I'm like, hold on. This is, first of all, it's too close to not go down and check out, because legitimately, what we were watching for what's considered a student show, it's really fucking good. Was everything 100% crisp and clean? No. But much like I said on our final thought video for that, if you go in with the mentality of knowing that it is a student show and these guys are learning, these girls are learning, and all I saw was a handful of fucking mistakes, that's a goddamn win. I don't care who you are. That's good wrestling. That means that something good is happening here, and I need to go see it. I have no excuse not to if I'm this close, especially with the way that we do shit on our channel, and how we really deep dive independent wrestling on all levels. So we stumble into it, and obviously, I'm assuming from your perspective, which would be kind of interesting. And Toddy, I'm gonna come around to you. Uh, when you saw this post go out, because again, I don't ask permission. I just pull a show and start watching it. And if feds like it, great. If they ask me to stop, I do. I have never had one company come to me and say, "Don't watch our stuff." Not one. When we do our stuff. So when you see this thing go out, that this random fucking channel that you've never heard of before, you've never seen before, is going to be watching House of Champions, what runs through your head? Because we haven't talked about this before. And you know what? I didn't even ask Mo this question. Shame on me, because I'm very curious. Because you
This
guys,
is a great question.
I'm very interested in seeing and hearing the answer. What goes through your head when you just see some random post go out there that this random channel that you've never heard of before is watching your show?
I think it's honestly the feeling that I get whenever I have I hear that someone's like talking about me or even like where I train. It's almost a surreal experience because obviously like to go from it being like a dream of like being a professional wrestler to all of a sudden now I am one, and to have people obviously be tuning into what the HOC is doing and how it's changing the game of what a school can do production wise and like the caliber that you can learn at. um I think it comes almost off as like a surreal moment, but also a proud moment that I get to, share with a lot of people who I consider like family. So yeah, I think it's very much a proud moment when all of a sudden I see people tuning in to what we're doing and seeing the reactions live of exactly that. Like it's there's gonna be mistakes because obviously we're all still learning, but you know, I think genuinely like the people who are in that locker room who are, on the shows such as Ivy Mercer, such as Mo Malik, Matthew Ennis, Destin Joannou,
Enos.
Reese Maddox, Enos.
Enos.
Yeah, like
Enos is what we call it on this channel. We will not stay away from that. Enos is his name.
listen, I don't want to experience the violence. This face has got to remain picture perfect for social media. But just like with how many talented people are on these shows, I could list all of them, but to see them get the recognition they deserve, and to see people tuning in, that's just it's such a proud moment.
Well, it's not even just us watching. You have to think too, like it's our audience as well. And granted, we our stuff is building. It's building every fucking week. We average several hundreds of people per stream every time we go live, and the number continues to grow. So it's not just our eyes that you're being seen in front of. It's also new eyes from our audience that you may not be familiar with, or who may not be familiar with you guys at all. So that's like the big bonus for us. And then when we see students like you guys that are getting in there and tearing it up like this, like it's the future. I told Rene this. I was like, you guys, when we walked into House of Champions, she walked right up to me. She's like, I know who you are. Well, here I am, But one of the first things I said to her was like, I really appreciate what you guys have going on here. Like these guys in here and these girls in here are the future of the industry, and if we don't invest in the future, then we have nothing. Like that's real. There's no faking that. There's no bullshit there, and it's just the way it is. It's tremendous to see the level of enthusiasm and excitement that genuinely is here with this group of talent and I've witnessed it firsthand. We'll get into that in just a few minutes, but before we do, Toddy, let me come around to you because I want to see what's on your brain real quick, and then we'll start talking a little bit about your training and what's happening here moving forward. What do you got, Mr. Ramsey?
That was actually a great. We're on the same wavelength because I wanted to ask you. We've talked a lot about House of Champions and the family dynamic. You can tell that everyone cares about one another there. What drew you into House of Champions, and what kept you there? And that moment where it's like, okay, you knew you didn't want to do college, you knew you wanted to wrestle, but when did that light bulb go off? And it's like, this is it. I found my calling.
Ooh. So to answer the first question of what drew me to the HOC, so it's one of those things. I talked to my sister about this, about like just extensively. I thought the facility was amazing. I thought, I saw that there was a free class, and I was like, that's what drew me there initially. But I think the biggest thing that kept me there and really just kept me like hungry to like continue to go back and continue training at that was because, you know, really that family dynamic. I think that's one of the biggest things that when you look at other schools, like there's not a lot of schools that I feel like really have such a brother sister family dynamic at their schools. And that was a big thing that I was 7 years competitive dance, 2 years varsity volleyball, 2 years varsity wrestling. Like, but with my dance background, that got me used to being very much a family dynamic of, you support your sisters and your brothers who are doing things. And, I I was older than some of like the little kids, and like the little kids looked up to me as like a big brother. So when I joined the Hawk and all of a sudden was able to experience that same energy that I had left at with dance, it was just one of those things that I knew that it was like I have to stay here. Um and then to obviously answer the follow-up question of, when did I know that this was like the moment? Um I think honestly, it was. It's such a hard question because I feel like I've had a couple moments where I've been like, okay, um, probably my first night after taking bumps. I think it was one of those things where I got home after taking my first like set of bumps, and I remember my mom looking at me and like she knew that I was like I had just taken bumps, so obviously I was sore out of my mind. Um, but like I was still so hungry. Like I was still like I think I came home and then I immediately did film study. And so it was one of those things where I was like, I immediately knew I was like, there's nothing else for me. Um, like there, I believe that 100%. Like that, this is what I will do with my life. Because it genuinely just, uh, it genuinely just feels right. Like even there's days where I may be battered, bruised, sore, not wanting to do it, but I still like find the energy to get up and do it because it's like I love it so much. And so yeah, I think the first day after bumps would be like the day I was like, okay, this is it. This is where we're going with life.
I remember training for me, man, and I'm gonna tell you this. Like I told Mo, um, running ropes. I think when I went home, it looked like I had a hot night with a kendo stick. Just all welts all over my back, bruises all over my back. Then this is a true story. My 4-year-old niece in a swimming pool. I could not pick her up out of the water. With this was different times, different shit going on, but it was one of the hardest things for me to deal with because footwork was difficult for me initially when I was breaking in. Which leads me to one of my questions that I love to ask is when you're getting into this thing and you're starting to really kind of hone in as you're going through training, everybody's got that one or two things it's hard for them to grasp initially. Now there are handfuls that right, get in the ring, boom, they're good. They have no issues, no issues or no hangups. What's something that's been difficult for you as you know over the last year or so as you've been training?
Cool. So I'll answer this in a two-parter. If I had to go like move wise, like fundamentals based, I think it is the footwork. I think the footwork is very like intricate, but also just the technique of how everything is. Um, it's such a like, obviously I've mentioned I did dance for 7 years, so I'm no stranger to like there being like a technique to everything you do, and there being like a
Mm-hmm.
precision to everything. But I think wrestling, it's one of those things where it's like obviously you have the technique, but then it's like taking that technique and also making it look a certain way. Um, so I think that's the biggest thing, is just the technique and like the footwork of everything and just how everything like pieces together would be the biggest thing, like physically, that was like one of those things that has been a difficult point. But I think the other thing is also being in the public eye, um, and being okay with it would be the other thing that I would say is a big thing for me. Um, which is shocking because I grew up like on stage, so like but it's one of those things where I've had moments where it was actually really funny. I did a kids camp show last Saturday where I was one of the coaches for the whole week, and so all these kids, and it was a really surreal moment because I had one of the first times a kid walked up to me asking for my autograph. And so I think one of the biggest things that I've had to struggle with over this last year with my training is obviously switching my mindset from, oh, this is not normal, to this is my new normal and it's a good thing, So I would say that would be my answer to that question.
No, I get it, man. Like I used to say all the time, footwork was my worst enemy. Until I got it down. When I got it down, it was good to go. I'm just very interested to see what some of the challenges are and how you overcome them, because to me it's the biggest misconception about professional wrestling is anybody can do it. It's not true. Uh, Not at all. Anybody walks up and makes that statement to me, I tell them to go through. I see back in my day, you guys nowadays you train in for a year or two at a time before you're primed and ready. Back in my day, bro, you had 5 months.
Yep.
Yeah, it wasn't, and it was 2 days a week, 3 days a week, burn and turn, burn and turn. Learn as much as you can while you can, and then you're just kind of thrown out there, and go do you, buddy. Have a good day. This was back before there were a lot of training schools that were attached to companies, right? That were companies that would have training schools attached to them. Um, I think nowadays the the love of you know unless you've been in the ring, it's hard to describe the love of just being there and knowing that you have the ability to have a crowd react to you at the drop of a dime, in one way or the other, which is a perfect segue to where I want to go to next, and that's how did you come up with your character? because again, I don't want to give too much away too early. I was at the last event and I was sitting right next to the commentary table, and I think I came up to you after the show. And do you remember what I said to you?
I do a little bit.
I can
I
tell
do
you.
remember a little bit.
Your ability to ad lib and be very spontaneous while your gift of gab, I think that's how I said it, is your gift of gab is on fucking point. So it
Thank you.
leads me to really wanting to know, where did you come up with the character? 'Cause this is a viral moment every time you're on television or you're on YouTube. So where does the character come from? Let's sink into that. Let's dive into that for a second.
So I came up with Wilson Dyer, the character. It was kind of an amalgamation of a lot of things that just it. I think a lot of people, when they're coming up with their characters, it's obviously like they take themselves and they up it by like 100. And I didn't want to do that. I think that's one of the things that when people look at my character, like, it's not me. I wanted to challenge myself with like a character that just genuinely is completely opposite of me. And so I was like, I want to be a bad guy. I want to be like, I want a character that I can really just get heat. And like, I started really thinking about it, and I was scrolling through my phone and I was watching just a bunch of these like influencers on TikTok. And I'm like, I hate these guys. Like, I'm like scrolling and I'm like, I hate Bryce Hall. I hate like Little Huddy. Like, I'm like, I hate these people. And I'm like sitting there and I was like, oh, okay. And then I watched Ted Lasso and watched like the character like Jamie Tart. This like condescending, narcissistic star, just like, and I was like, okay. So I was just sitting there with the character. I was like, okay, so I'm gonna be a social media influencer turned wrestler. But then I was like, that's too easy. I'm like, and I was like looking at my follower count, and at the time I think I only had like 200 followers. So I was like, okay, now let's add a delusion to this. Let's not treat this like he has the follower count. We're gonna take this delusion and we're really gonna make it like even more like, oh my god. So I came up with it just basically being like, okay, take influencer culture, take those social media influencers you hate, make them have no followers, but they still think they have like millions of followers. And so then just Wilson Dyer came about, and it's taken a life of its own. Like,
Well, I just say from my perspective, sitting there, I heard a lot. I heard basically all the commentary as it was happening, and I know that you're not in ring yet, if I'm not mistaken. Are you in ring? Have you had
so
have you had matches yet before we go down this rabbit hole?
a bit. I have worked matches. Obviously I haven't like done a show of sorts.
Okay.
But I've done like I've had like
Well,
matches here and there.
You have. I think you've had matches. Obviously, you did. I saw that. You touched on the kids show a minute ago, and I do want to circle back around to that because I think that was something that was really interesting, and I love the fact that HOC does that. And I do not want to gloss over it. So, Toddy, please remind me to circle back around to the kids show.
No, definitely.
I know that when I say you haven't been in the ring, it's more of you haven't seen you on a HOC show in ring yet, and I think the utilization of you with the commentary booth was fucking incredible when as I was sitting there and I'm listening, and I couldn't hear the counterpart to you very well, but I could hear you.
Good.
I could hear you responding to him. And it was very Bobby Heenan-esque and I don't mean that in a blow and smoke up your ass kind of way. I just mean it as you were very witty. You were very spot on with responses. It sounded to me. Um, and I'm interested to see where you're going to take that and how you're going to utilize that in your game, because you have that ability already. The microphone is your friend. How do you plan on utilizing that to your benefit?
So I want to point out one thing before I answer the question. Speaking about Bobby Heenan, so I have a note in my phone that is literally a list of all the wrestlers who I film study. When it came to like watching people and like film studying and that, and one of them was Bobby Heenan
Shut
because
up.
obviously I'll pull up the list so we can actually like you guys can see the list. Who does Wilson Dyer film study? This is going to be so my film study is Lex Luger, Ricky Martel, Tyler Breeze, The Miz 2010, Bobby Heenan, Gorgeous George, Exotic Adrian Strait,
Oh my
DJ
God.
Z, Owen Hart, Psycho Sid, Al Snow, Waylon Mercy, and Chris Jericho.
Oh, you had me at Adrian Street. God
Yeah.
damn.
So you know, because I think there's a real like those are people who I film study. Like I will go out and look for matches, but I also will sit there and just like throw on like tapes. But I think each and every one of them, I take some aspect. So obviously, like Bobby Heenan, you know, just a master on the mic. You know, knew how to talk, and so that's one of those things that when it comes to how I'm going to use that in my game and how I like do that, I've already had it here and there where I've done promos. I can just talk. like I
Well,
think
I
it's one of
know
those
you
things that
have the ability to make someone want to punch you in the face, which makes you a good heel. And you're talking about
I
wanting to be a heel earlier. That was all I was. I couldn't be a baby face, a good guy, baby face. I couldn't do it. I tried. I was never good at it. I was always better at getting someone to despise me because it's just so much easier. So much, well, and also too, I can't let me be 100% transparent. Like back in my day, it wasn't as old school, but it was still kind of old school where the heels called the matches. So I got to,
yep.
I was in control of a majority of the flow of the match, and I liked that aspect of the game back then. Toddy, let me circle over and down, around to you. I know you've probably got a couple of questions. Let's fire some off at 'em.
So we talked about the work that you did, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I think that night I had some comments during the live stream because it really felt like I was there. You were on top of it. That said, that's one aspect that they've used you in, and I've seen you doing photography. I've seen you with cameras. I've seen you all over the place. What is it like night to night transitioning to all those different jobs?
Ooh. I think it's one of those things that it feels exactly like how, you know, when you go on the indies and you obviously go to these shows and you're just there as a ring crew and you're just like there, you know, you never know how you're gonna be utilized. And that's what I think has been the biggest thing of like it helps prepare me for that because obviously like I may show up to a booking and or like may show up to a you know indie show and you know they may not have a spot for me on the card, but okay, you want to use me on the commentary booth, cool. You need someone to be behind the camera, perfect. um but like the transitioning, I think it's one of those things where you know it's it's very much interesting to be like to switch because it exactly that like we obviously know what jobs we're walking into the day of the show, but you know when we get before the show, we get sent out a list of like, okay, well, what jobs do you want to try out? So I've done ring announcing, I've done camera, I've done commentary, I've done camera production, so being like behind the cameras and like helping the camera people get the shots that we need for the show so we can get those moments. There's still a lot more for me to try. I definitely like producing a show. That's a little daunting. I'll be honest.
I like the fact that that's a piece of what's going on at House of Champions, is that you're not just training in the ring to be a professional wrestler. There's training a lot of cross training, because there's a lot that goes into even putting on a production, putting on a show. And while someone's niche may not be in the ring, doesn't mean that you can't find your niche behind the scenes, running a camera, getting on a microphone. But for you as a talent, and this is, it to me would make you much more valuable on the scene in general, especially when you're coming from a reputable school like the HOC. It to me it adds more to your stock, because you are able to run the camera. You can get on the microphone. At the end of the shoot, I could see you putting like a faction of people together, just being the mouthpiece for it. I could see another Heenan family with Wilson Dyer. Like this is what fucking drives me up the wall, because once I'm invested into something, like I have stories for days. I've been writing, and I write for Feds Today. We consult with companies on their creative, on critiquing their shows, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The list goes on and on. I start thinking about stories, and in my head, it starts going, and come on, people will hate the fuck out of you. It would be.
It's already happened. It's already happened where I've had moments where I just snap into character, and it's so funny because obviously my family knows me, but they also know like the behind the scenes. So one of my favorite moments I love to talk about is one of the first kids camps. I was on the show, and my mom came out to watch the show. And I didn't even have to tell my mom to boo me. She was out in the section telling people, like, you should hate this guy. And, like, I didn't even make it through the curtain before they were booing me. Like, they heard my music, and they were like, I hate this guy. And I'm like, and then all of a sudden I came out, and, it was one of those things where just, it's exactly that. It's so... Wrestling's weird. I love it.
It's certainly is. Toddy, what else you got?
Well, so speaking of the kids camp,
Yes.
really tuned into all of you guys' social media and House of Champions. So, Wilson Dyer, guy who's hated, but now you're working with kids, and kids are kids. How do you make that transition? And then, because some of them still, I think it was when you were working the match and you had the camera, and I could hear you like telling the kid what to do. That kid didn't hate you. That kid was just like, yay. So like, how do you work all that together?
I think it's doing different things to obviously, work what you're like doing. Because obviously when I'm working a match against, like, let's say someone like Destin, how I'm going to go about getting that heat and playing that character is going to be a lot different than how I am with the kids. Because obviously they're kids, I'm not, they're just wanting to beat me up, so, but it's one of those things that, it doesn't really, I don't want to say the character really shifts, based on that. It's more just, I center it more based on like, these kids should be looking up to me, more or less, treating it more as like a character of like, I'm a better influence than your parents, So that's, I think, the biggest thing is changing the character less from social media influencer who's delusional to social media influencer who's delusional and thinks he's more important than these kids' parents. Because a kid, as much as a kid will be a brat at home, they always love their parents. So if you go and tell them that their parents suck, they're going to defend their parents. So that's, I think, the biggest like shift in the character when it comes to like dealing with the kids and then just handling them. Because how do you get a kid? How do you get a kid to hate you? Just tell them their mom looks stupid. No.
Or you could pull an Aiden aggro and give the fake dap and flip them off.
Oh,
That was fantastic.
that,
Like, come on, give me the double fives and pull them away and flip them off. That's exactly what happens. One of the greatest things I've ever seen over the last couple of weeks. Let me preface. This has been one thing I've seen over the last couple of weeks. It was fantastic. What else do you got, Todd? Well, let me ask you this, because something that I found very impressive while I was at the HOC, and again, the environment there. As soon as you walk in, it's very infectious. I couldn't even make it 3 steps in the door, and I had 3 or 4 people walking up and introducing themselves to me. You guys already knew who I was, and I thought that was great. I was like, what? Man, of course, it's not like I'm a small guy. I'm pretty easy to point out with a big podcasting shirt on. But was the fact that there was this moment on the show where Jamie got in the ring and brought in the kids. They got in the ring and brought you guys out, and you had that student show or that kids show. How did that go? I saw some clips. I saw some photographs. Like, I mean, let's talk about that for a minute, because anytime you can get in there, you got to think about it from like this perspective, right? Like, these kids are young and they're on cloud 9 as is, just to be doing professional wrestling because it's the coolest job in the world, right? When you get to that student show and what does that, not the student show, the kids show, what does that look like? Are these kids wrestling matches, or are they just they are wrestling matches that, okay.
So the way it's structured is very interesting, because it's GMJ, I think he's the head coach of it. He runs it. But me, Ryan, and George obviously all like spend the week teaching them moves, teaching them the fundamentals, going over everything, getting them ready for this show. And then, we allow them to have their moment. And so, obviously they're never going to be just out there by themselves where it's just 2 kids going into a match together. There's always going to be one of us out there with them, sometimes 2 of us out there, just so that they can, if all of a sudden they need that like guidance, like the guardrails, you can kind of guide them back in. And also just so we can give them that moment of, for their parents, because, kids are kids. They're all going to want their moments. And so, sometimes they're not going to work well with each other. So then it's like, okay, one of us coaches have to step in and be like, hey, we're going to give you this moment so you can have it. So, a case in point, there's a kid named Luca who, I remember I was like sitting there selling like on the apron, and I looked at his family and I was like, which one of the kids is yours? And they pointed to Luca, and I was like, your kid's stupid. And so I got up and immediately I looked at Luca and I go, beat me up. Beat me up and hit me with a stunner. So he beats me up, hits me with a stunner. I drop right back down, right back in front of his family, so that, he has this moment to like really look back on and enjoy.
That's fucking hilarious. I love that. I love it.
And I got to share a really cool moment. The first kids camp, I did a 6-man tag match. It was me, and 2 kids versus Destin and 2 other kids. So I got to share the ring with Destin, and But obviously, this last show that was here on Saturday, I got to share the ring. I did a one-on-one match with one of the kids, specifically Reese Maddox's little brother. And so that was a really cool moment because obviously I cannot praise like Reese and his family, like the Ayers family, enough. I think, if I had to shout out anyone like besides the HOC and like, or my family, like them, because so it was really cool to kind of get to share that moment with their family and give them that moment to look back on.
Toddy, go ahead.
I think that was the match that I saw. And it was really good.
I mean, I don't think you saw it. I think you
enjoyed
need to delete the footage, cut the footage, but it never happened. No.
it. My lips are sealed.
I got choked out. I turned red.
What match? What match? I don't know what you're talking about.
Hey, thank you.
Right.
Thank you.
There you go. There you go. So you're getting your experience. Now, for you, everybody has their measure of what they consider successful. What is that for you? What is success for you?
Ooh. If we're talking like where do I want to be? I think that's obviously WWE is like for me. But as well, I grew up, obviously I got into wrestling with WWE, but I started watching New Japan and I started really loving New Japan. So a big thing that I've always said to myself is that I would love, and like for me, goal wise, New Japan is definitely on the list. So that's been like the biggest measure of success. So yeah, I think those would be like the measuring stick, like of where like, okay, New Japan or WWE, like those are the two that when I make it to those, let me not use the term if, I'm going to use when, because I very much am like very like you got to speak into existence. Yeah. So WWE or New Japan are like the standard for me of, okay, I have succeeded in this business.
You know what that level of success for us is, Toddy?
What is that?
Hitting 1,000 on YouTube on independent wrestling.
Yes, it is.
That's an inside joke there. Our platform literally came about because I had mentioned I was doing some other stuff, some other podcasting, and some other genres, and I had mentioned to one of my I'm gonna say partner at the time, somebody I was doing some work with, but I really wanted to focus on indie wrestling because you can't get anything on the WWF or E cleared on YouTube. You can't do any of that. Nothing. You're hamstrung. Indie wrestling, though, you can do a lot with. And this guy's like said, nah, it'll never happen. You'll never hit 1,000. I mean, we're knocking on 1,000's door. We're within range, and it's only been about 2 years. I think we're about 2 years deep into our platform, and we just figured out what works. We just found the secret sauce. So if it took 2 years to get the sauce together, buddy, we're about to start cooking. When I say that, this is a question that I ask everybody when I come on the show. When it comes down to the independent wrestling scene, and I know that, well, I'm not gonna say I know. Give me some names of some people on the indie scene that you would love to get in the ring with. If you had the opportunity to get in the ring with, but call it your top 5, if you will, of independent wrestlers.
Okay. Top five. Oh, you're putting me on the spot here. Okay.
It's okay. I can edit. If you got to think about it, I can edit shit out. Don't worry about it. To make it seamless.
So I've said it once and I'll say it twice. Tim Dynamite is a huge one. Tim Dynamite. Jose Zamora, the Spotlight. Danny Limelight would be another one. Danny Limelight. I'm gonna go with oh my god, why am I blanking on the name? Kid Bandit.
Okay.
I'll go Kid Bandit, and then I need like an oddball pick. I feel like I need one that's like completely like deep cut.
Charles Crawley.
Let's
That's
go.
what I'd say. The spectacular twat himself.
You know, this is who I'll say. I'll say Mikey Spandex. So
Okay.
Mikey Spandex, Danny Limelight, Jose Zamora, Tim Dynamite, and Kid Bandit would be my top 5 like current independent like dream matches for me.
We just watched Super Crazy's last show, the February show. Actually, I think they're having one tonight, as a matter of fact.
They are.
I literally watched it this past Monday. Saw Tim Dynamite and Matt Tremont. Holy fucking shit.
Great match.
Wow. I hope he got a bonus. That's the first thing that went through my head, because god damn did this get chopped. He got chopped hard. What about Dynamite is this is not the first time that Tim Dynamite's killed a conversation between you and I. And I think, off air, I think I've told you, I watch a lot of Dynamite stuff. I think the guy's tremendous. I think it's a matter of time before he's on TV. What do you see in Dynamite? What makes you want to get in the ring with him?
I think it's a story. I think it comes down to the storytelling aspect. Because obviously I follow Tim Dynamite on TikTok. And that's how obviously I got introduced to him. And this was before I was even like training to be a wrestler. But I think it was just listening to some of like his promo work and just that and just how he talked. It was one of those things where immediately that drew me into like there's some fun that can be done here story wise, and like the promo work and the just banter back and forth, I feel like just writes itself. So I think that's the biggest thing that drew me to Dynamite, is just his promo work. And just I found him on TikTok, and all of a sudden I was like, hey, this works. I found him on TikTok. First promo, a response promo on TikTok.
He's a hell of a worker, man. Hell of a worker. Now here's another question that I ask people, and this question I'm asking you because once you give me the answer, I'll tell you why I asked the question. But if you had 4 or 5 people that we should be watching, or that I should be watching, or that our channel should be watching, who would they be? It could be people you know, could be people you watch, could be doesn't matter.
4 or 5? You said 4 people?
Doesn't matter. You can give me 4 or 5.
Okay.
There's no number.
Okay.
Don't press yourself.
Okay.
Have to name this many. No, and I'll preface this question with, for those on the indie scene that are watching this. This is, again, it's organic. It's not rehearsed. He's on the spot with this question. So if he doesn't mention your name, don't fucking be that guy. Don't do that.
Listen. So I would say the people that I would say that you really need to keep an eye on currently independents. DMC, Mikey Spandex, over at the establishment. Continuing over at the establishment, Reese Maddox, Big Boy Patty, Kid Kuda, Casey Rocker, Destin, obviously a huge one. Furthermore, I would obviously say, probably if I had to say one more person, a Scotty Sosa. Scotty Sosa would be another one. She's amazing. I think she's, really got like an aura for her as, I think the biggest reason I mentioned her is because female wrestling, I think, is one of the biggest things that you don't find a lot of female wrestlers who are talented and also like you look
Yes,
good
sir.
and also are talented, and that's the biggest thing. So Scotty would be a huge one. I'm gonna get a text from her about me shouting her out. Just be like, I'm gonna get a text from her about this. No, but Scotty would be a huge one. I think continuing on like women's wrestling, Ivy Mercer over at the HOC. I think she's amazing. I think that's my list. I think that's my list.
I'll tell you why. This is why I asked that question, because a piece of why our channel and how our channel is successful and continues to grow and continues to move forward is because there's so much independent wrestling out there across the globe, and we're seen on every continent. There's at least one. This is such a minor thing, and this is not a flex, and it's not a toot your own horn situation. This is mind-boggling to me that there's somebody on every continent that knows who we are and what we're doing and supports our platform. And then I say that because independent wrestling is everywhere, and there's so much of it.
Yep.
And how do we know where to go? That's because we talk to guys and gals that are in the business and that are currently in the industry just like you, and you work with these people more often than not. And there are hidden gems everywhere, as we have discovered on our journey into this vast world that's known as independent wrestling. And just some people just need a little spotlight put on them. And if we have the ability to do that, and the goal at the end of the day is if one member of our audience follows whoever we're talking to with conversations, like just one follows, shares, buy some merch, whatever, it's a fucking win. It's because it's one person who may not have known you before, who may not have didn't even knew that you were involved in professional wrestling. And that's the beautiful thing, because wrestling can bring people together if you allow it to. And that's what we strive for here is literally opening our arms to all things indie wrestling, and diving in and finding out what's there. It's a beautiful thing. The scene is in a really good spot, and as we've seen across the globe, the younger generation continues to impress. And it makes me feel like professional wrestling is going to be in a really good place for the next couple of decades. And that is, that's the chef's kiss on all of it. Toddy, you got any more questions? What do you got?
I don't have a question, but I do have some thoughts that I wrote down, and some things that really resonated with me that you've talked about. And one of the things is I already, like I said, really watch what you guys are doing, and I pay attention because you guys draw me in. Like, I am interested. I want to see more. And I've seen you in all these different jobs, but it resonates because you put a lot of hard work into everything you do.
Mm-hmm.
And it's refreshing to hear, even down to when you said you did the film study, and I listened to your list of people that you watched. A lot of people, they feel like I'm just naturally talented. I have this charisma. I can just walk in there off the street and do this. You are actually taking the time to continue to hone your craft. And for me, I was raised with the values of hard work. I mean, and it's what I do with my current job, in the military. Hard work, dedication, you put time into it. So when I see somebody doing the stuff that you're doing and see it paying off, it resonates so well with me. And it explains why you were one of the initial people that I was drawn to when I first started watching this. You want to succeed, but it's not just a I want. You're actually taking the steps to do it to get better, and that really means a lot to me. And I appreciate that so much about you and what you've done. It was really refreshing to watch your work during the kids camp. I heard the commentary, like everything that you do. Now it all clicks and it makes sense why you are as good as you are with the stuff that you do. So for that, sir, my hat is really off to you.
Thank you. That means a lot. I think that's one of those things that I want to shout out. I'm gonna try not to cry when I talk about this. I want to shout out my father because if I can account anyone for my hard work and anything about me, it is that man, the man who raised me. Growing up, my father worked 3 jobs to provide for my family. I watched him break his back for the family. And so for me, it was one of those things that I knew no matter what I did career wise, I was always going to match that hard work because of him. So if I can shout out anyone for my work ethic and that, it is going to be my father. So I will let him know you said that because that'll make him happy.
Well, I listen. The proof is there. I like it. We told Mo, and I've told a couple other guys privately that have DM'd from the HOC, and really truly, if I showed you my phone and how many messages we get, you would probably lose your mind. It's really unreal. But I tell these guys the same thing. We are here to invest in you because you are what's going to give us something in the future. And it's not that professional wrestling, WWE, AEW, TNA, prominent feds, it's not that they're not putting on good TV or they're not, doing their thing. I equivalent and break it down to that of like, uh, you know, what is like baseball. You have Major League Baseball. You get AAA. You get Double A, and then you got Single A. You get it. Um, when you get to the majors, you still want to perform. You still want to get that brass ring. But to me, it's like you're going to be constricted because you're going to have to do what they tell you to do, what they want you to do, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent. You don't really have a whole lot of control or say over what you can do yourself. And then you got like the AAA and the Double A area. I look at it from like that. Like that's where everyone's really scrapping to get to that top spot. Like I'm not saying complacency sets in by any means because I've never been there. I don't know. I just look at it like I feel like there's a lot more competitiveness out on the independent scene. And with it being eerily similar to the territory system from the 70s and 60s, 70s, and 80s, and I'm not kidding you. It's on Wrestling is on fire everywhere in such a positive way. Gates are up everywhere. And again, we talk to people on every continent. It's really a very beautiful thing to see and to know that there's talent like yourself and a lot of other really good great talents that are coming out of the HOC and all over the world. We're going to be sitting pretty for a while, and your journey's really just beginning. It's going to be a hell of a lot of fun to sit back and watch it as it progresses from this point forward. Because, like I tell you, like we tell everybody, this isn't a one and done situation with us. Like we're going to continue to share your stuff. We're going to continue to keep in touch with you. We're coming to back to the HOC in April for Tournament of Champions. Got our secured our
That
front.
was gonna be an exciting show.
We've
That's
got
gonna be an exciting show.
Can we talk about that before we close it out? Can we talk about how Tournament of Champions and the event itself?
I think I could talk about it a little bit. I think I could talk about it a little bit.
I don't want to talk a lot about it. Whatever you think we can discuss. Like I want to get it out there because Toddy is going to be invading the HOC for the first time and is going to be able to
Oh, that's awesome.
experience what I got to experience last month. We have secured our ringside seats, and I cannot wait to watch Destin punch Enos in the face. Uh, was Tournament of Champions is shaping up to be a pretty fucking good card.
Hmm.
GMJ and Big Boy Patty for the championship. You're crowning you're the first ever women's champion for the HOC is going to be crowned. Which Toddy, when you say women's wrestling, there's a common ground between me, you, and Toddy, and probably more so with you and Toddy on that line when it comes to women's wrestling. Toddy is a women's wrestling connoisseur, and truthfully, so am I. I just can't keep up with Toddy in that regard because he sees it all. He's everywhere, and to know that, like, to me, this is a pretty big deal because history's being made. There's only
Yep.
one first under any circumstance, and we're going to be able to see it, and we're going to be able to feel it, and we're going to be able to witness it. I think there's a ladder match. Fucking Mo Malik, Lucha Dude, and oh God, the rock star. I forgot his name. I'm drawing a blank. Who's the rock?
You're forgetting Max Danziger, the rock star of the HOC.
I forgot Max's name. It was no disrespect. The guy's fucking tremendous. He was one of the first guys to walk up and shake my hand when I walked through the door. I had no idea he knew who the fuck I was. No clue. Man walked right up to me and shook my hands, and I can appreciate that. I actually wanted to speak to him, and GMJ before I left, but when I was on my way out, it was a 3-hour drive back. He was selling merch, and there was a line there, and I didn't want to like just step up and, hey man, let me, nice to meet you. I didn't want to do that. And also with GMJ, he had the kids, man. The kids were around him. They, I didn't want to interfere with that either. Was able to talk to both of them via DM after the fact and just kind of explain. It's not that I wasn't trying to big time or big league anybody. I saw you with kids and I saw you with making money, so I ain't trying to interfere with any of that right then and there. But there's a ladder match, first time ever, for Mo at least, and then of course Destin gonna slap the shit out of old Matthew for us, and it's a loaded card. Am I missing a match, or did I just run that down with just off a virtual memory?
So, women's match. Hold up. I got to think about this. So, the women's match, the ladder match, the world title match, the grudge match.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like we need to find out.
Obviously.
We got to find out what's going on with Slothy, too.
Yes.
I think we need to see the Street Privates back on the case. I think we need to see the Street Privates back on the case. Street God. The street, like we got to see the Street Profits back on the case. But obviously, I mean, Samuel G. Kincaid and Casey Vi, a little bit of a partnership there. Not gonna spoil anything, but may see a tag team match or so between the Street Profits and Vi and Kincaid.
I feel like that needs to happen because all signs were pointing to that when we were at the show. And I'm gonna keep it real, and I'll clip this and tag it in it. Fuck it, I don't care. Vi is my dirty little secret right now. Like, I fucking love this guy. The more I watch him and the more I see this character, I think this guy's a goddamn genius. I think he's a genius. He is slowly becoming my new Channing Thomas. And I think Channing Thomas is one of the greatest heels on the game right now. Because, part of it's because it comes out to Simply the Best by fucking Tina Turner. And does a whole fucking production. It's great.
Great choice.
If you have not seen it, dude, it is glorious. His manager, Sidney Bakave, they clasp hands in the center of the ring and do a whole slow twirl. It's fantastic. But Vi is becoming one of my dirty little secrets. Truly,
Vi is awesome. I love that man. That it has become like a hand fidget. The Vi thing, like every once in a while, like I'll be at work, like stressing, like literally stressing at work, and all of a sudden I'll be like doing his like mannerisms. It's
fantastic. It's fantastic. It is such a great.
I hate how good he is.
Like, I didn't know I wasn't following him on social media until earlier this week, and I was like, "Oh no, I'm changing that right now." He followed right back. I went, "My dude, I cannot wait to see more of you because it's just fantastic stuff." And this is where I say how wrestling is such a beautiful thing, and YouTube's algorithm, and based on the shit that we have watched in the past, would have never have known that the HOC was a thing if it wouldn't have populated on my, hey, you should probably watch this. I and here we are. This is how relationships are built. And with you guys being so close, you will see a lot more of us. I don't think I'm telling any secrets right now by any means. If I am, whoops. At the end of the year, like, we're talking about sponsoring, one of the matches or a couple of matches on a couple of the shows throughout the year. That's how much we believe in what you guys have going on. Like, we want to put our money where our mouth is, and if it's whatever that looks like, I'm talking with the HOC. But that's something we're going to be doing. We think that you guys are doing some really good stuff, and again, it's one thing to talk about it, it's something totally different to be about it. We just want to show our support, and that was a big reason why I wanted to come down and do the ticketed show. Uh, I mean, that money's going to go to the HOC in some form or fashion, or to, I don't know what goes on or what doesn't happen, but as long as it's going to to you guys in the facility, that's all that fucking matters. And if that's the small thing that we can do now, then that's what we can do right now. I can't wait for this event. I can't wait for the show. Toddy, what are your thoughts on this lineup that is, it's going to be a special night.
I mean, it already was going to be special for me because you know how I feel about HSC, but the fact that I get to see the first women's champion crowned, like, sign me up. Like, over the moon, ecstatic. And like you said, that's no secret. I think anybody who knows me knows that I am a big advocate for watching the women in the ring. So I'm super excited for that match. But I'm also excited the ladder match because I know when we talked to Mo, he was kind of explaining the dynamics there. So I'm excited for that. But I'm excited for everything. Wilson talked about doing the hand motions. Justice for Slothy has become my thing. That is my hashtag. So,
listen, justice for Slothy, but like hashtag justice for me because I was unruly interrogated by Slade Porter about Slothy, and like I was just trying to go to training. So, you know what? Justice for Slothy, but also justice for me. I feel like, I
You
not
felt
one
kind of
to say
slighted
it,
there,
but
huh?
I do, me, Vi, Sam, like all of us have been just accused of stealing Slothy. It seems like Slade Porter doesn't know what he's talking about. He's just pointing fingers. I need some concrete evidence before he
I
keeps
need some
pointing fingers.
I need some full context. What is Slothy? I still don't know what Slothy is.
Slothy. I like no, like Slothy. It's such an interesting story about Slothy. So I don't really know the full story of like where Slothy came from, but all I know is when I signed up for the HOC, Slothy had become a character that was appearing on shows. And his first ever appearance, Slothy, their first appearance, I'll say. Let me backtrack my words. I'm not going to assume. I haven't talked to Slothy. Not like I kidnapped him. I don't know. But their first appearance on an HOC show was in a match with Casey Vi, where he would end up losing to Slothy. because Destin would obviously attack Casey and Slothy would take advantage and win the match. And then it became a running joke of just Slothy just terrorizing Casey. And then it was revealed at Takeoff. If my dates are right, I'm probably off. At one of the shows, obviously the story of Kekoa and Big Boy Patty was coming to fruition. Kekoa had taken out Kuda a while back, and so all of a sudden there was a match where Slothy was in a match, and Slothy got in the ring and was revealed to be Kid Kuda under the mask. And then Slothy has been disappeared since. So is Kid Kuda Slothy? Maybe. But Slothy's missing. And Slade Porter's trying to get to the bottom of Slothy's disappearance. And the last person who had a really big issue with Slothy was Casey Vi. Now.
So what if Kuda's been Slothy this whole time? There is no Slothy. Like that's the gags. Oh my god, that would be fucking great because Slade has no idea. Oh, that would be fantastic if that was where that was going. If it is, kudos, and I'm calling it now. I'm saying it now. Oh my goodness, the possibilities. Looking forward.
I'm telling you,
I'm looking forward.
It was so funny when I first joined the HOC, when all of a sudden hearing the pop for Slothy at his first appearance, I don't think I could replicate the moment ever. Like, the initial pop for Slothy when he first came out, it was beautiful.
Well, we're gonna see how this shakes, man. What are your thoughts? I didn't get your full thoughts on the card itself. Like, what are you thinking about it and the possibilities? Like I shared a story earlier this week on Instagram from from the HOC or GMJ where he's got the belt held up, and I said, "Is this the future of the HOC?"
Yeah. I think this genuinely is probably the most stacked card we've ever seen at the HOC of just talent. Not just inside the HOC, but also from outside the HOC. Obviously, we have a lot of like special faces coming down specifically for this show. Guest ring announcers. People who like Olivia Rose for the women's title match. But I think just my overall thoughts on this card is this is definitely going to be the one, this show specifically is going to be one that is going to change the landscape of where the HOC is. Because we're going to have a women's champion finally. We're going to have that champion's contract finally having someone holding that briefcase, whether that is Momo Leak, whether that is Max Danziger, or if that is Blanco Loco, one of those three men is going to have an opportunity to face off for the HOC championship at any given time, which then plays into the fact that, okay, well, obviously you have to think about that aspect of, well, if they win the contract in the beginning of the night, who knows if that contract gets put into play during GMJ and Big Boy Patty's match. So, there's a lot of like, I think just genuine, like, I don't know what's going to happen. And I'm so excited to be there and watch it live.
That was my last question. I guess we're going to see you there.
Of course, the viral influence has to be there. Now, where you'll see me, that remains to be seen. But I think there's a little bit more I could say on commentary, and
Oh God, I'd love.
I don't know.
I'd fucking love that. I'm telling you, I can't wait for our audience to, because again, when we invest, our audience invests as well, and they usually come back and they start investing in different characters, and it then becomes like a game. Like I have a couple of people that are regulars of our shows that if I see them cheering for somebody, then I'll automatically fucking go for the opposite person just to
As
Yes,
fucking
he
you
does.
should.
and chat.
As you
He
should.
does.
Uh,
He
it's
does it to me.
I not only to you, I do it to Paul, I do it to Devlin, I do it to Goth, I do it to JB, I do it to everybody. Even, just our
Hmm.
chatters. Like, no, 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 like, no, you're wrong, and this person's gonna win, and whatever.
I
Uh,
do that to my mom. Like me and my mom, like as I was younger, I'd always cheer for the people she cheered for. But then once I got older, I started cheering for like the bad guys. So all of a sudden, it was like literally just a screaming match in my living room because me and my mom are like disagreeing on who to cheer for.
yeah,
Like,
I love that.
that's fantastic. This has been a lot of fun, brother. I really enjoy sitting down and talking with you guys. This is a piece of why our platform exists, is to put your faces in front of our audience, and in the hopes that we can help you guys along the way. This is going to be a beautiful ride that you're about to take, and sit back and enjoy it, and really take it in while you're on the rise, because things are going to happen. It's going to happen. I'm telling you. I can't wait for these guys to hear my commentary. They're going to be blown away. I was blown away because I didn't expect it. I didn't expect what I was hearing, and it was so good. Like it cracked me, it popped me. Danny was with me. He was like, "What's so funny?" I said, I hear him, and it's great. It's just it's fun stuff. I can't wait to see what you do. Before we tie a bow on things, is there anything that you would like to throw out there? Anything you want to plug? Anything you want to, promote?
ooh, what do I
All
wanna?
that, all that jazz. I've got all your stuff already on the screen. It's been there the entire show.
Yeah,
I'll tell you what. I'll do this piece, and then I'll turn it over to you. So this is my little
okay.
my little spiel. That's great. I work on this. It's fantastic. It's been there on the
You
screen the
rehearsed
entire
this.
show. I don't
I'm
rehearse it,
I'm excited to
but
hear this.
I kind of try and make it a thing. It's been on the screen the entire show, guys. If you haven't done so already, Wilson Dyer keeps it simple. On Instagram, it's the Wilson Dyer. It's it, it's idiot proof. You can't mess that up. You hit the follow button there, and then you start liking some of the posts. Take a peek at what he has going on. If you want to get some merch, or you want to check out his merch store, right underneath the Instagram tag, ProWrestlingTees.com/Wilson Dyer. Easiest way that you can support independent wrestling is by like, share, and subscribe. It's very simple. It costs you nothing. Uh, now, how'd I do? Was that good?
That was amazing. I mean, yeah, it is idiot proof. I mean, because most of the people who are scrolling on their phones just don't know how to hit a button. So you know what? It is idiot proof. It is just at the Wilson Dyer because there is no other Wilson Dyer that is as influential, as viral, as gorgeous as me. So I think you did an amazing job.
And to further idiot proof it, if you've made it this far in the video, I know you can't click anything on the screen, so just go down below in the video description. You're right there, and you can click it, and then you can go do what you need to do. I appreciate your time, dude. And time is a very valuable thing, and I always have a good time with you. I had a great time with you on our live stream. I had a fantastic time with you here, just bullshitting and chit chatting. Our door's always open. If you want to drop back by, you want to hop on another stream with us, we'll make some things happen. I want to get someone from the HOC that we're chit chatting with to come on when we watch these shows back, because we're going to be watching back all of the shows that we see moving forward. And now that I know when the schedule is, I may not make every show, but I will make every ticket to the event, I will definitely make sure that I'm down there for as a way to continue to show our support for what you guys got going on. And I'll be prepared for merch this next trip down. So tell the boys that we're coming in hot. And usually, if there's a shirt, we're probably gonna buy it. It's just a way for us to further support what you guys got going on. Toddy, what do you want to say to the people before we close out?
I say it each and every time we're on the air because I truly mean it. Um, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for being here with us, for sharing your love for our passion for something that we love to do. You guys are fantastic, and we wouldn't be where we are without each and every one of you. I truly love each and every one of your faces, and I can't wait to be with you again.
Well, for Mr. Wilson Dyer, for Todrick Tabar Ramsey, I am Chris Page. We will see you next time.